Hello and welcome to the Visible Women Podcast. I'm Kim DeBrew, and along with co-host Corynne Corbett, we put issues related to diversity, inclusion, and appearance in the spotlight and examine how they impact the lives of women of color.
Today's topic is getting unstuck. We want to talk about the ways our habits of mind and our behaviors can be impediments to us becoming the human beings that, quite frankly, we are called to be. We're going to talk about changing our perspectives and looking with fresh eyes at the ways that we get in our own way and the cycles of behavior that we sometimes find ourselves in and can't break free of. And finally, we're going to look at our invisible tendencies and how they may limit our opportunities for bigger and bolder action in our lives as we move towards our hopes and dreams. And I think it's a great time to have this conversation as at the recording of this episode, spring is just about in the air. The days are becoming a little bit longer. I'm seeing signs of life from my garden. And it feels like a good time to challenge myself to uncover those things that were formerly hidden. So right now I'm looking at a pile of papers on my desk. I'm looking at books scattered here and there. And in some ways, they represent decisions that I've delayed. They represent action that I want to take and haven't yet taken. They represent appointments that need to be made, invoices that need to be submitted. And I see light at the end of the tunnel when I look out my windows, and yet sometimes I struggle to find my way there.
So we're recording, and I'm on the road while we're recording this show, and I'm currently in Charlotte, North Carolina, where it feels like spring. And it's getting me thinking about how I'm better. And so the winter is a time where I'm just kind of like hibernating like a bear. And although at the top of the year, I'm thinking about what I want to accomplish in the year, I feel like I don't get started until spring. And one of the things that I read that was eye-opening to me was that the scariest thing that can happen is to be in the same place you were when the year started. Like you have all these plans, you've made all of these decisions, you've talked about a lot, and then your action doesn't meet the expectations to get to the goal. And so that really stuck with me in a way that, so sometimes we often, when we're thinking about one of the reasons we get kind of stalled and kind of treading water, staying in place, is because we've decided about so many things that we can't even see the forest for the trees. So I think on this show today, we're talking about clarity, clarity and prioritizing, kind of what we want to make important in our lives in many different areas. And that in a lot of ways is about being stuck.
Yeah, I'm curious, Corynne, when you think about yourself right now, personally, professionally, spiritually, physically, whatever element of your life you're thinking about, in what ways are you currently stuck?
Professionally, in some ways I'm stuck because as I mentioned, we have too many ideas. I am one of those people. I'm a living example of an idea generator. And what I've decided is to focus on the ideas now that, and this is just a recent decision, focus on the ideas that more align with my purpose. If I am empowering women and girls of color to stand in their beauty and also to challenge the beauty industry to be inclusive and and have equity when it comes to how they're speaking to us. And so that's the kind of work I need to do. That's the kind of work I need to prioritize. So professionally, I think we achieved that in some ways through this podcast, but it's some other things that I've kind of been toying around with, but they got kind of pushed to the side, which I'm going to prioritize now to do that. And then in the consulting and advisory companies that I own the beauty swirl, I need to work at that harder. I really feel like spiritually, I'm in a good place. I think that I'm not stuck there. But physically, I think that I'm best when I'm working out 3 or 4 days a week and I'm not working out at all. And I could have all the excuses in the world and I've been using them, but I know that I feel so much better when I work out. So I'm saying it on this podcast because then somebody can call me. Feel free to call me out on it because I need to start working out again. And then, personally, I just have to decide where I want to live. I'm in a period of transition and am I moving to a new city? Why not? But I'm moving somewhere before the end of this year and I have to decide where that is. And I have to spend some time thinking about that, which I haven't been because I've been caught up in, okay, I do this project, I make X amount of money, I can pay this bill, what? So I have to think more of big picture. In what ways do you find yourself stuck in those same areas?
Professionally, I am actually finding work as a consultant. It almost feels, and this is probably an area of investigation for myself, but it feels almost scary that work has been coming to me in big and wonderful ways without me necessarily working that hard to grow the work. And so I would say I'm stuck in a pattern of worry that in some ways is unfounded, that if I hustle less, if I pause more, then the opportunities will not keep coming, and that the real present threats of, being able to provide resource for my family will not be able to be met. So I think I'm stuck professionally, often in a pattern of worry. Personally, I might be in a good place, with one exception. I am finding myself, and we talked about this before, always seeking more joy. So there are a set of things that I would put on my list. I would love to be creating more time and space for. And they are things that make me smile and laugh. And I'm stuck at feeling like they're just out of reach. Yeah, why are they out of reach? I would say they're out of reach in a regular way. So I will take 5 minutes to do some planning, which I love to do. I love to plan a party or plan a time to meet with friends or light my fireplace, sit in my sunroom. But it feels like a luxury, right? It's almost like I do it in secret because I don't think it's okay to reach for those things in big ways. So it's like I'm stealing time when I do them. And I think that's a pattern that I'm in, I'm not reaching for that joy every day, all day, and making it a priority. Physically, I'm in the same boat as you. I love to be outside, walking, doing physical activities outside during the summer months. And when winter happens, I hibernate and I'm doing unhealthy things. And not to make excuses, it's just the pattern that I'm in right now.
And we realize that, if you're listening, that you can be in your own pattern. It doesn't have to be the same pattern that we're experiencing. But, this show is really about recognizing your pattern or making a plan to change those patterns. And it could be in one area. It doesn't have to be all areas at the same time, but one area at a time, baby step. And the goal is that you're not stuck in the same place that you are stuck right now at the end of the year. That's what we want for ourselves, and that's what we want for you.
Yeah, I was thinking about what my unstuck looks like, and it's funny, the common thread that keeps coming up for me is those things that bring me joy are the spaces in which I am unstuck. So professionally, when I'm unstuck, when I'm the most unstuck is when when I'm coaching, when I have opportunities to partner one-on-one with leaders who are doing brave things. It lights me up. It makes my world sing. I'd rather be doing it than anything else. My daughter asks me when I'm in a good mood on the ride home, Mommy, did you have a coaching session today? And I said, yes, yes. She said, I knew it. I could tell by your mood. So for me, prioritizing that part of my work, I think will end up being an important commitment that I want to make for myself this spring, that no matter what else I'm doing, even if, if it's paid work or unpaid work, folks that are, private pay that can't pay as much as leaders whose organizations are sponsoring them, I'm going to prioritize spending time with clients, with leaders who really who want to do brave things in their lives. It gives me energy just being around them.
And just for the sake of, clarity and maybe a little commercial break, what is the name of your coaching practice?
Thank you. So I am the principal of Diversity Dimensions Consulting, and we partner with organizations and leaders who want to remain intact while doing good. I want to step into transformation of their organizations to take advantage of diverse talent, diverse leaders. So that's mostly my consulting work. My coaching work is working with anyone who wants to do big, bold, brave things in their own development. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that's cool. But it makes sense. If this is the thing that brings you joy, let's make it easier for people to find it if they need your services to get joy for themselves, right? So I was thinking that one of the ways that I can get unstuck, it's a challenge when you don't have a set schedule. And I have been trying this year. I've actually been trying to at least be up and dressed and in front of my computer for dedicated hours or working if I'm not going to a client's office. Sometimes I work late into the midnight hours, but trying to do it all before 8 p.m. Trying to make that my cutoff as opposed to midnight. But I was reading an article in Inc. magazine called "The World's Most Successful People Don't Actually Start Work at 4 a.m. They wake up whenever the heck they decide." So because we hear all these, these things about, to be successful, you have to get up at a certain time, you have to follow these certain rules, you have to do that. But it's really being efficient with the time that you have and whenever you get up. So if you get up later, then you use that time well. If you get up very early, you use that time well. But you can be just as successful whenever you wake up. But it's the consistency of waking up and doing the work that matters. To get unstuck, I'm focusing on getting up, dedicating specific amounts of time to my work, and then spending a portion of that day pitching for new business to expand the number of companies and individuals that I'm working with. So that gives me a little bit more structure in my day without it being, okay, you have this appointment, this appointment, this appointment. But there are things that I have to do. I do a lot of writing, but I also do, kind of strategy sessions and accountability calls and those kinds of things as well. And if I can make people aware of all the things that I do, I can be more, I can build a better business. So, and the difference is that so you're an early riser and I'm not. So, because I don't find that I write well early in the day. That's just for me. I don't write well early.
Yeah, it sounds like the key, though, is really understanding your own rhythm one coaching colleague says that the key is managing your energy, not your time. And I think there's a lot to that. As I was thinking about unstuck, I started out with a reference to what my desk looks like. And I think my unstuck has to do with my physical space. I've learned over time, I'm more of a visual learner than anything else. And how things look ends up throwing me off or filling me up with, good things. So I'm the person that if I walk into my house and my daughter's desk is crazy and there are things all over the floor, I will come in like a hurricane and start throwing things around, and my mood changes and I'm not grounded and I'm on edge. And so I guess what I'm challenging myself in this springtime to do is be just a little bit more grounded about my physical space. So, and slow down that hurricane response. Like I pulled out my old copy of The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo, which was sort of a reference for a lot of sectors for a while. It really talked about finding items in your house that spark joy, throwing everything away, that prioritizing throwing stuff away, moving little by little, room by room. And I pulled it out not because I think it's the solution for me, but I pulled it out to just notice for myself how important the space part of it is, and that when I bought my house, oh my gosh, when I tell you how exquisite that feeling was, that this very old house was mine, and how the floor plan and what I wanted to do with it. I mean, that was all joy. And the fact that I confined myself to one little corner in one little room all day, every day is just absurd, right? So my unstuck is really first moving around his house a little bit more, trying to slow down and not get crazy about things that are out of place. And then I think I'm going to just pick one project. So one project that I'd love to undertake this spring is to bring in some new furniture and a new look to my daughter's, what was her playroom, which will now be her tween or teen room, and try to spruce that up a little bit. I think that one action will help me feel a little bit better about this mental space that I'm in right now. Anything else for you, Corynne, that you think would be an unstuck move?
Yeah, well, it's going to have to be finding my rhythm with working out again. I used to be addicted to Soul Cycle, but that is too expensive for my current lifestyle. So I need to find an alternative. Maybe it doesn't have to be cycling, that I love. When I was living in Essex County in New Jersey, I loved the Zumba class at Lifetime Fitness. They had some really great Zumba. I live further away from that now. It's like an actual drive there. Like, it's not like a 15 minutes to get there. It would be like 30, 40 minutes. So I have to find something equivalent to that Zumba kind of thing that I like, that I can do. So I think that balance of either working out like early first thing or after I finish work, like that's the hard stop and I'm working, of ends work, helps me kind of like either get excited for work or come down from it. And so I think that those two, like really focusing on my business and then really focusing on my physical health, and will also, kind of impact my mood as well. So those two things really, really are important to me. Also, and when I talk about my physical health, I'm also talking about my diet, and not dieting, but really rebooting, because I know I'm doing more stress eating than I would normally do because I'm not working out. So it becomes this vicious cycle. So I want to put a stop to that. I'm looking at that and saying, nah, let's stop that.
One of the ways that when I talk to clients about interrupting, right, patterns of behaviors, those ways in which we're getting in our own way, or our defaults, the the ways that we kind of break out of them, it starts usually with an intention or a commitment or some type of declaration that takes us forward, takes us, in some ways, lifts our gaze toward some bigger purpose, something that we want to actualize. So I think at the end of this, we want to challenge you as our listeners to think about what that might look like for you. So if you lift your gaze toward something that is important to you, in my words, that brings me joy, that, like Corynne's example, like what her purpose is here in life, what would that enable you to do that you're currently perhaps not able to do? How might it change the low-hanging fruit of the things where you're stuck? I know for me, if I make a commitment to finding more joy daily, what I'm doing differently is I'm spending time with friends. I'm prioritizing learning. I'm the kind of person it was like being Mary Jane or something like that, where she had those stickies all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
for her windows and mirrors and things like that. I'm that kind of person. I surround myself with quotes that I love. So I think when I'm making a commitment to joy, it's really also challenging myself in my space to, remind myself of, oh, wow, this is where all this is heading, right? You're making a difference for women of color, for people of color to, be bigger, bolder, and have more opportunity. So Corynne, for you, if you wanted to make a declaration and a commitment towards your vision, what might it sound like?
I just heard a scripture that really gave me pause in a really good way to think about how I want to approach and continue to be unstuck. So the scripture is Proverbs 14:23. There is profit in all labor, but mere talk leads to poverty. So I want to do less talking and more working, to put it more succinctly, because I have a tendency to have a million ideas. And that scripture reminded me that to focus on the thing, not necessarily that bring profit, but as you said, bring joy, and are also living in my purpose. So if I can do that, that keeps me unstuck. That keeps me unstuck because I'm not running in the vicious circle of like, that idea is bigger than that idea, because I have a tendency to make the idea so big that there's nowhere to start. So I think that, if you're listening and you fall in that camp, follow my example and just kind of like hone it down and to the essentials of what you feel like your mission in life is.
So we shared our professional, personal, spiritual, and physical stuckness, the ways in which we are stuck in those spaces. And then we offered a couple of commitments to getting unstuck as spring approaches. So we'd love to hear yours as you listen and follow us in our various social media outlets. We would love to hear the ways in which you are committing anew to getting out of those behavioral patterns that may be weighing you down and stepping into the newness, the renewal, the possibilities for spring.
That's our show for today. Look for the latest installment of the Visible Women podcast every other Wednesday, where we tackle issues and experiences that relate to appearance, diversity, and inclusion, and that are relevant to our lives. Check out our website, visiblewomenpodcast.com, where you can follow us on all of our social channels. And make sure you join our Facebook group for a follow-up discussion on today's topic. Until then, here's to all the visible women out there. Never forget that we see you.